Welcome to our show. Thank you for your service. We're here today with Steve Croteau, retired Master Sergeant, U.S. Air Force. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you could join us. I know you drove a little bit of a way to come here and share your story with us.
Sure, my pleasure being here. I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak about my service and also the service that I'm currently providing with the state.
Where did you serve? You said it was the Air Force.
Yes, I was in the Air Force 24 years, active duty. Originally from Fall River, went to the Air Force, first station in Travis Air Force Base, California. Then I moved to Spain, back to California, then a year in Korea, 3 years in Japan, 2 years in Korea, and my last base was Langley Air Force Base, Virginia.
That is quite a career path.
Yeah, I've been at a few places, and I've also deployed in Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, Iraq, and Qatar.
Wow. So with the Air Force, they typically have a shorter mobilization window than some of the other branches. What was your longest deployment and to where?
My longest one was the last one in Qatar, 6 months. So that was right before I retired. I was there July 2015 to February 2016. But you're correct. The Air Force usually does a little shorter. So in the last maybe 10 years, they extended it to 6 months. Mm-hmm. Before it used to be 3 months. So they extended it 6 months to be on board with some of the other services.
Mm-hmm. Did you personally and professionally notice a difference in the way you prepared for those missions, whether they were shorter or longer? Did it affect the mission you were doing at all, or how you handled leaving the family behind?
Great question. First of all, I'm a single parent, so that creates some challenges when you deploy. My last deployment to Qatar, 6 months. My daughter, she was in college, so she had to move to California from Virginia and go to school there. So that was definitely a challenge. The longer deployments was more of a challenge for the family. Personally, preparing for deployment, the length didn't matter so much. It was more being away from the family. So that was the biggest challenge. But this last deployment, one thing I did notice was communication has changed a great deal. So in the past, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have texting, but this last deployment, we were able to talk every day, text. So that helped out, but it also hinders the mission sometimes because people are occupied with what's going on back home.
Yeah.
So it has its pros and cons.
I agree. You mentioned that you were in Korea a couple times.
Yes.
What was that like, going back and forth?
Yes, that was a great experience. My first assignment to Korea, let's see, what did I do? I was in a maintenance squadron doing computer work, so I was the commissioned officer in charge of the computer network system. And then I went to Japan for 3 years, then I came back and I was the Deputy Inspector General, which was probably one of the most rewarding jobs I had in the military, and it also helps me out with my position today. So Korea is a very challenging location because you're constantly preparing to go to war. You're constantly having exercises. So I think that's what makes it challenging, and it's also people are away from their families for a year. So pretty much most people are away from their families for a year. So those were the two challenges that we had in Korea.
Were you ever able to leave the base and experience the Korean culture?
Oh yeah. Korea, you can leave the base anytime. There is a curfew though, so that's one thing you have to be aware of. But yeah, the Korean culture is great. The people are very, very warm and receptive people and hard workers. So that was definitely culturally it was a great experience. Getting to experience the DMZ, that was pretty interesting.
DMZ. Can you elaborate?
That's the border from the North and South Korea border, where it's kind of a neutral zone, and if you were to go outside of one area, you're in North Korea, and they would say they might try to pull you in So it's very interesting, and that's when they have any meetings. They're usually done. Meetings between the North and South are usually done at that DMZ, demilitarized zone.
Okay. Okay. Now, this is the veteran service officer in me. Do you belong to the Korean War Veterans?
No.
As an organization?
No, I don't.
Did you know you were eligible to?
No, I didn't.
So, just a little side note, many people who have served, specifically in the Air Force and the Navy, have spent and served time in Korea since the active portion of the Korean War has ended. The conflict itself hasn't ended, but the active engagement for the public's understanding, it seems to have, but it hasn't. So people who serve within the borders of Korea are eligible to join that association. I do know that they are looking to increase their membership so that they don't dissolve. So just a little side note for me to you.
That's great. I have a warm place in my heart for Korea, so thank you for telling me that, and I'll spread that word as well.
Oh, please do. Please do. Chickapoo's lucky enough. We have roughly, just over 100 Korean War era veterans still with us, and just trying to connect with people and let them know that those connections are still viable. It's the whole premise for having guests like you on our show, is to let people know that those connections are out there and local and available.
That's great. Thank you. And I will definitely reach out and try to connect with some of these Korean War veterans, more of them. I think they would enjoy hearing my experiences there 50 years later, or
certainly
however time it was.
Certainly. Now, before we get into the service you're currently providing, can you share with us just one story that will always stick with you, one instance or one circumstance, if you're allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, no problem. I think I would have to say it was right after 9/11. So I was in a contingency response group where they set up a base from a bare base, from a place where there's no base. So right after 9/11, we were called to go to Uzbekistan and set up a base there, and that was an important base to set up because without that base, they had to open that base up before they went to Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So we get the word we're going there. It was about, the end of September. We got there right around the beginning of October. So tensions were pretty high right after 9/11. We didn't know what we were expecting. We were all in our gear, ready to land. So we land on Uzbekistan, but there's nobody there once we get there. There's nobody there, and there's nothing there. So right from the beginning, we had to set up tents. We had no water, we had no meals, so we were eating the meals ready to eat for about 2 months.
Oh, the MREs.
MREs, mm-hmm. Right. And water, we brought our own water bladders. Restrooms, they had no restrooms, so we had to we dug holes for restrooms. So that was definitely a very great experience. That's my September 11th experience. Everybody in the military has their own experiences and what they did, and that's mine. And like other experiences, that's kind of a bond that you have with the people that you deployed to at that time. For
sure. Now, you said that was a great experience. So many people would think that was horrible to go in and have to set it all up yourself without bathrooms, without food service, and not to be service branch-wise offensive, but doesn't the Air Force always provide the really good accommodations? It doesn't sound like that happened this time.
That's right, we do, but we were the first ones in. So that's what you're in the military for. That's your mission. That's pretty much what you're supposed to do in the military. So when you get an opportunity to do what you train to do, that is very rewarding.
I'm without words to think about what that must have been like to come off that plane and see nothing but space. Did you feel safe coming off the plane?
No, we landed in a combat landing, which means the plane it lands in a rotation, so there's no fire at it. So initially, we didn't know what to expect. We were in our battle gear, but once we get there was nobody there. which was pretty interesting. And prior to going there, one thing I did was we were in Ramstein Air Force Base, Germany, and prior to going there, I was able to get a mailing address so folks could receive mail from Ramstein, and they would put it on the plane that's going to our location, Uzbekistan. That was a very very good thing I did on my part, because other than that, we had very little communication. So those first month or so, people were able to receive mail and some care packages, which was huge. And you know, a month later, that was like my primary job was doing this post office, this made up post office that we did until an actual post office came. So that was one of my initial contributions to that deployment.
That's incredible. I remember, and I think it's the longevity of anyone's military career, from basic to deployments and active duty when you're away, is the importance of receiving that physical piece of mail, that connection to back home, and just, even before you open it, just going, someone remembered me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a huge morale lifter.
You're absolutely right. And for the people that don't get it, it kind of detracts them.
And that's when care packages come in, because
That's
you always
right.
share what's in those.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, Steve, the service you're providing now, can you elaborate, where are you working now, and what is that program?
Great. I work for the Office of the State Treasurer, the Veterans Bonus Division. What that is, the state of Massachusetts pays a bonus to service members that originally lived in Massachusetts before entering the military and served during a wartime period. Those wartime periods are the Global War on Terrorism, which is September 11th till current, Persian Gulf, 1990 to 1991, Vietnam conflict, the Korean War, and World War II. So those are the programs where if somebody lived in Massachusetts and served during those wartime periods, the state will pay them a bonus. It's a gratitude of appreciation for their service during a wartime period.
Now, do any other states offer this program?
Some do, but not as robust as Massachusetts. So most states, there's a residency requirement where you had to live in the state prior to entering the service. So some of the other states that offer us, Ohio and West Virginia. There's a few, but nothing compared to the current bonus we have.
Now, you mentioned that you deployed many times. So is this a one-time bonus, or are there subsequent bonuses that you can apply for multiple missions?
Yeah, great question. So the current bonus, Global War on Terrorism, you're allowed to get multiple bonuses for multiple deployments. So let me tell you what the bonuses are for the Global War on Terrorism. $500 for 6 months active service. What that means is if someone that served after 9/11 from Massachusetts has served 6 months, they're eligible for $500. Or if they were activated for the Reserve or Guard, they're also eligible for $500.
Okay.
If they deploy to Iraq, Afghanistan, or any other imminent danger location, first time they're eligible for $1,000. Anytime after that, they're eligible for $500 per deployment.
Wow.
If they deploy to a non-imminent danger location, for example, I told you my last deployment was Qatar. I was there 6 months. I was eligible for $250 for that deployment. So a service member, if they don't deploy, they can get $500 for serving during a wartime period. If they deploy, $1,000 if they go to an imminent danger location, $500 after that.
And it's active duty for that first 500. So National Guard and Reserves would need that mobilization, whereas active duty.
That's correct.
Okay.
So for National Guard or Reserve, they'd have to be activated other than active duty for training. So not for training, but if they're activated stateside or overseas, 6 months, eligible for $500.
That's amazing. Now, you had mentioned the war times go back all the way to World War II.
That's correct.
Are you guys still seeing applications for that? Are there still people out there that have not received or applied for this?
Another great question. So most of the older war periods, Vietnam, Korea War, and World War II, they received it after discharge. But there are still some folks that haven't received it. Very few, especially for the Korean World War II folks. Back then, they're very efficient on getting this bonus to those folks. But there are a few folks that didn't receive it for whatever reason. So we still award one or two World War II and Korean War bonuses. Vietnam bonuses, we awarded $26,000 in Vietnam bonuses last year.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a
we're
lot.
still reaching out. And one thing we noticed with the Vietnam folks is back in 1972, the law said the bonus ended in 1972. But in 2010, they extended it to 1975. So if you know any Vietnam vets with the year groups between 1972 and 1975, recommend them to contact our office to see if they got their bonus.
Right.
But really, any veteran can contact our office, verify that they got the bonus. We have great records. We have copies of the original applications and also copies of the checks.
Oh, so that's really amazing. So they can find out if they've ever applied before, even if they're not sure.
Correct.
Now, some of those World War II and Korea, health-wise, they may be more on the decline. Can a family member help them apply?
That's right. Family members can help them to apply. And if a veteran has passed away and did not receive their bonus, then the primary family member is eligible to receive the bonus.
So surviving spouse or a child
Or parent.
dependent.
Right.
Or the
Or
parent,
parent, primary spouse. And also on that, if somebody has passed away while on active duty, more so for September 11th and after, the family members are eligible for any bonuses that they have not received plus $1,000. So
Wow.
that is for any Gold Star family from September 11th till present. So if you or anyone out there knows of some folks that fit that category, please tell them to contact our office.
Now, how would they go about contacting your office? We're from Western Mass, and even for myself, sometimes thinking about reaching out to the State House is a little intimidating. Are there several ways? Is there one really primary way that these people are going to know that they're going to get a hold of the right person?
Yeah, great way. So they can call our office. We have an extension, a direct line to our office. We pick up the phone at any time. They can email us, and we also have an inquiry form online, so they can submit an inquiry online, and we'll respond to that as soon as possible.
And is that mass.gov/treasurer's office?
That's correct, mass.gov/treasurer's office veterans, and we'll share that link with everybody for this show.
Fantastic. And I'm just so proud of myself. I completely guessed at that website. So how does it feel to go from serving your country to serving such a deserving population?
I really enjoy my time here at the Treasury. I think I've made a good impact with the program with some of my experiences to help out veterans that are in need, to be able to reach out to veterans. So it's very rewarding job after my first job after the military, very rewarding. And
that was a direct transition?
Direct transition, yep. And the Treasurer's office, they really treat people great, so it was very, very easy transition for me, and I really enjoy it.
That's fantastic. I know oftentimes, especially in today's culture, we talk about what happens after service and that disconnect that some people feel, that higher purpose while serving your country, going on these high-risk missions, adrenaline rushes, the sense of urgency and important. And then you come home, and unless you have something lined up or something immediately to fall into place like you did, this absence happens, and this sense of what am I doing, and that letdown of they're not serving their mission anymore. So I'm really grateful for you that you had that transition and it was smooth.
Thank you. It was just luck and timing. I do see a lot of veterans, like you said, that get out, that are struggling. So I try to encourage them on my story, what I did to help them with their transition.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And your daughter must be proud. You mentioned you're a single dad.
Oh yeah. She enjoyed the military life as well. But there's a lot of moving around, like I told you.
Yeah. I know in the Army it's called an Army brat. Does the Air Force have a similar nomenclature for that?
Yeah. Same thing, military brat.
Military brat, yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you served your country for 24 outstanding years, and then to continue serving the Commonwealth the way that you're doing is incredible. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And thank you for watching.